Welcome to Winning Inside, the show where we follow the journey from feeling defeated to winning. Here are your hosts, Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman.
Hello, amazing people. Welcome to the Winning Inside podcast, where we discuss real issues, insights, and solutions to help you thrive in your day-to-day lives. We know life happens, and we can choose to be a spectator or a participant.
These conversations and stories are about the participants, the ones who made the choice to do the inner work and found a way to keep moving forward.
Hey, Cheddy.
Michelle, how are you?
How's that sparkle?
So you're going to start with sparkle again, huh?
Yes. I had to get that out there before you did.
Because you knew I was going to do it.
I did. There's been a few people commenting on the sparkle comment. And listen, like I said, if you know Cheddy, then you know about the sparkle. So
yes. Even my sister in England called me out on the sparkle. So she called me laughing about this. That's the first thing she said. Tell me about the sparkle. And I busted out laughing like, seriously, sis?
So that comment was for you, sis. It's all for you.
Thank you, Patsy. We love you. But yeah, today's going to be an interesting one because this is one that has hit home. I don't think of any topic that, we've had a few topics we always talk about topics that are like very personal and very real to us. But this is one that has hit home for me, for many of my clients as well. And many people that I just know are going through the same thing at the same time. Is it just a seasonal thing or is it just that I'm just more aware of it? But it's burnout. That feeling of total exhaustion where all you can do is sigh and be like, I don't even know what to do. You put your hands in the air like, I'm done. I'm spent. I have nothing.
Yeah. Or even worse, you don't even feel anything. Like you're
numbness.
That burned out.
Yes.
There's a million different reasons how or why we got to this point, right? And certainly we can go through several of them. Yes. But the bottom line is, gosh, am I going to say sparkle again? You've lost that spark. I'm not going to end it though. Okay. You've lost that spark, right? And we addressed last week reevaluating your goals, taking this mid-year sort of checkpoint to assess your goals, assess where you're at in terms of the pursuit of them, assess whether or not they're relevant to you anymore. But sometimes it's also a moment to become reconnected to them because you're experiencing this burnout. Yeah. And yes, Cheddy and I, we have almost flirted with burnout for the last, month or so?
6 weeks or so.
6 weeks? Okay.
I'm going to say 6 weeks.
Yeah. And we finally just verbalized it to one another where it's like, oh, wait, we knew that this was here. We knew that we were dealing with this, and yet we kept sort of forcing ourselves and pushing ourselves forward. And oftentimes what that really leads to is doubling down on that burnout to the point where you almost just want to reject the work that you're doing.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. The other day, somebody was talking and I had the analogy of, I had people who say they're lighting the candle at both ends. They're burning the candle at both ends. And I'm like, when I heard this person talking, all I could think of was, you're not burning at both ends. This candle is on a hot plate and it's just melting. It's just burning from every side. There is no burning anymore. Nothing of effect is happening because you're doing so many things that you're absolutely doing nothing. And that's where that person was. That's where I am. That's where Michelle has been. We have all gone through this and you've probably gone through the same thing. We're just like, I'm done. Or worse than that, I don't even know what to do. All I know is I'm doing the same things and getting less result for the same things. And I don't understand it. Or I've said yes to 18 things, but I don't have space for 14. What am I going to do? I'm going to try and do all 18, which means you do all 18 poorly. Or you start to let things drop off, which is what I did. Things just dropped off. I was missing calls. I was missing appointments. I was doing things that were uncharacteristic and didn't even notice it at the time. Some of it you notice and like, oh man, that's an anomaly. But when an anomaly happens more than once, it's a trend. And then a trend can become a habit if you don't check it. And luckily, I was able to recognize it and it was able to be checked. But I had too much on my plate. And if you have too much on your plate, you've got to look at the plates and say, which one can I put down? What is a now? What is a later? And what is a not for me? And you've got to assess that. And that can be tough.
Yeah, highly recommend that you work with somebody to assess that, because oftentimes when we look at things, we have a problem really discerning what is a now, what is a not for me, right? And yes, even what can we put off till later, and what is a non-negotiable, because that's the key thing there. What is an absolute non-negotiable, and what is a, you know what, this really isn't for me.
Yes.
At all. That's the most difficult one.
Yes.
Because we think, especially for achievers or people pleasers or anything like that, we think we not just can do it all, but should do it all. We put that pressure on ourselves to really take ownership over all these things, even things that really belong to somebody else.
Yes.
We try to take ownership over it and we make it our problem. So a lot of this, obviously, it's really self-fulfilling, right? We create this situation, we create the environment for burnout, but we have to really start with a lot of self-compassion and recognizing that it's not wrong to slow down. And it is a gift to ourselves. It's a gift to the people around us. And it's a gift to the work that we're committed to doing in this world, if we do take a moment to slow down and just evaluate.
The beauty in what you said, Michelle, is slowing down is funny because it's counterintuitive to what we would believe. But a lot of times slowing down enables you to speed things up and do things better and have more effect. But sometimes you might have heard people say smooth is fast and, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It's very similar to that, where you can take deliberate action, more controlled action that puts you in a state of ease instead of frenzy and pressure and stress. You get your best results and they will come with a lot more ease. So if you can get into that kind of a space, you start to realize that taking things off your plate, taking a pause, slowing things down can enable you to actually work more effectively. Because contrary to popular belief, sometimes being busy does not mean being active. Activity does not always relate to productivity. And a lot of people will consider they're doing the right thing because they're so busy. I'm doing a million things. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that. That's great. But are they producing fruit? Are they yielding your best purpose? Are you getting the results that you desire? Maybe you are great. And if you're not, maybe you're not. And maybe you need to reassess that. So yeah, it's one of those things where you have to really think and be honest with yourself about the results you're getting. And if you're running around frantic from topic A to item B to project C, you're probably not getting any of them done really well. So maybe it's time to just focus on one, or, the things that are most important, the non-negotiables, and knock those out in the best way you can. And there was a book a long time ago. It was called Do What You Love and Outsource the Rest. Sometimes we've got to put things off of our plate, take things off of our plate and give them to people who that's their strength. It's something that they can do. They can do it better than you. They can do it quicker than you. They can do it with less effort than you, to enable you to use your time in the things that you're talented in, passionate about, skillful with. And that way you have more effect with the product and the effort that you put out there. Just food for thought.
Yeah. And Cheddy, when he's sharing these bits of information, I think he's actually thinking of a specific scenario and specific examples. And a lot of what he is speaking to is work, but what it really applies to is everything, right?
Life.
So even with fitness, I am a group fitness instructor. I have a personal trainer whom I adore, and she helps me stay focused on getting the results that I want, so that I don't have to do the research and test out the different movements and test out the different exercises to get those same results,
Yes.
right? I don't know what's going to work best for me necessarily. And she can see things from an outsider's perspective. She can see how I move when I'm lifting weights, how I move when I'm doing mobility exercises. And she can see those things that I might feel something is going on, but she can actually see that something's going on. So what I'm saying is that even with all the knowledge that we have and all the inside information that we have within ourselves, working with somebody that can have that outside perspective can really help you in terms of assessing what is the most efficient movement or action that you can take in order to achieve the results or the goal, if you want to use that word, that you really want in the most efficient manner. And when we say efficient, it's not just time. We're also talking about energy, right? Yes. So we know that it takes energy to create results, whether it's in your work or in your fitness and health, whatever it is, it takes some kind of energy in relationships. Imagine me avoiding that one. I don't know. Inside joke. It's fine. But the bottom line is,
I'm laughing up here. I'm sorry.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine. It's good.
Well
this
played,
is
man.
Just us being real.
Yes.
Energy is key, whether you want to achieve this result in the next 30 days, or even if you want to achieve it in the next, 365 days, that sustained energy that carries you through versus the burnout that we're talking about, right? For me to not have to assess what exercises I need to do in order to achieve this results saves me so much energy that I can sustain it through the next 30, 60, 90 days.
Yes.
And that's the same that applies to, your career, to the work that you're taking on, to your relationships, to how you manage your household, all of these things. When Cheddy's saying outsource the rest, he means really look at how you can collaborate, how you can, work with other individuals, whether professionals or people within your own household, to get the results that you want.
Oh my gosh. If that wasn't gold, I don't know what is. Well said, well played, well stated, Michelle. And I can do nothing but agree. And with that, I wanted to kind of go into some ways, and I'm sure you have a bunch of ideas on this, Michelle, but how can you tell? What does it even look like? What is the anatomy of burnout? I mean, in different areas of your life, what can that look like when what does it look like? How can you tell that you're experiencing burnout or potentially heading down, burnout avenue, about to get to that destination? So how can you recognize it either when you're in it or before it starts?
Ooh, well,
I just put that on you, didn't I? I just threw that on you.
No, I mean, it's really broad, right? It's so individualized. I mean, Cheddy, you mentioned, oh my gosh, I was late to appointments. I was missing appointments. I was double booking and then not even realizing it until it happened. People that I love dearly were feeling disconnected from me. So there were all of these.
Call it out, Michelle. You. Let's not even dance around it.
You mentioned
other people too.
Other people, but
people. Yes, my family as well. And friends.
There are often signs, right? Before we really recognize it, there are often signs. And again, those signs, whether you call it the universe saying like, hey, guess what? The worst of the worst is, in my opinion, is the physical signs, right? Yeah. So this can really affect your health and your blood pressure, just so many ways that if we don't really look at how we are managing our energy and balancing that while we're taking on more responsibility, again, whether it's at home or at work, if we don't really evaluate that and take time to just, and not from a place of judgment, like, oh my God, how could I be so stupid to take these on? But really from a place of compassion of like, this really isn't serving my best interest at the end of the day, and I want to be my best self for my son, for my family, whatever it is. And taking that time to evaluate it is so critically important. There's other ways too, in terms of just waking up and just feeling almost that sense of dread. Yeah. I remember doing that when I had to go into work at times, right?
Been there.
Yeah. And it was just that sense of, oh my gosh, I'm waking up with no energy. And it's not because I didn't sleep necessarily. It was more of just, I would picture my morning routine and I would picture, maybe going into my workspace and the people that I would see and none of it was bringing any kind of light or joy to me.
Yes.
And I realized, one, maybe this isn't the right place for me to work. Yeah. But two, it was just complete burnout.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It was this like consistent sense of stress because I was failing in one place or another. And anxiety, and that just starts to really perpetuate and create new sense of stress and anxiety in other areas of my life. I've heard one manager used to tell me all the time, the way you do some things is the way you do everything. And trust me, I was doing everything in a sense of hypervigilant. I'm super stressed. I'm feeling anxious. I think I'm failing at everything in life.
Yes.
And the utter burnout was a complete anxiety attack at work.
Yeah. Can I highlight something you said when you mentioned the whole adage, which is actually I'd say it's probably a universal law. The way you do one thing is the way you do, everything. Sometimes you don't even notice it's happening. But what you have to be aware of is when you experience burnout and it's affecting you in one area, it does translate into other areas as well. And I want you to be aware of that. So let's say you're having an issue at work and it's causing you to not be function at your highest capability. You're probably doing the same thing with your family. You're probably doing the same thing with your friends. You're probably doing the same thing with your health. It's affecting you in other areas. Believe me, it does have bleed over. This is not a linear thing where I'm only burned out in this one area, because it's such a part of who you are. It affects all of your energy. It affects yourself and your being and the way you think and the way you do things. Therefore, since we're thinking beings and we're doing beings, it's going to affect you in every area of your life where you're thinking and being and doing. So realize that just because the burnout may have occurred because of work or because of a relationship or because of an interpersonal relationship with somebody or anything, any project you're doing, any item, it doesn't mean it's going to not bleed over into other areas in your sphere of your world. So be aware of that you might say the major stressor in my life is my relationship. It's going to affect you at work. It's going to affect you how you interact with your friends and your family. It may affect you with your hobbies and your sports and the things you have interest in. And this is why one of the things that people notice when it comes to depression is that people lose interest in the things they like, or with any kind of a stress that we stop doing the things that we like to do or we usually do and we do well. So be mindful of the fact that it doesn't just affect you in a linear way. It does have a holistic approach or a holistic effect on you and the things that you do. And this is how sometimes your friends know you're going through something, because it may not personally be with them, but they may say, hey, what's going on? You used to always do this and now you haven't done it in like 3 weeks. What's going on? And your friends may notice the micro nuanced changes in your behavior and your performance. So it's good to actually be aware of that. It's very good to be aware of that.
Absolutely. I love that. And even just checking in with your family, or a loved one or somebody that you trust very well of, hey, do you feel like anything's different about me?
Wow.
But find the honest one.
Yeah. Find the Michelle in your life who's going to tell you exactly what's going on.
And just give them a moment to really think about it and come to you with, what? Yeah. Or no, actually, it seems like you might be a little stressed at work, but otherwise you seem to be okay with, things are normal, whatever. But when I say find the honest one, we do come across a lot of people pleasers in this world, and they just want you to feel better about yourself. So they're just going to be like, no, you're great.
I know some of those. Those people.
We love them too. We love all of them. Yeah.
So let me give you an example of that, how I caught it in my life. And this was recent. So my mom, I'm an encourager. I'm a cheerleader. That is inherently who I am. My sister, the same way. My kids, the same way. I realized we get it from my mom, their grandmother. My mom is a super motivator, a super encourager. So I didn't realize it, but that's probably why I am the same way, because I've grown up with that. Well, I was telling her about this course that I'm taking, how it's super overwhelming and it's really throwing me off. And I just feel like I'm really struggling and it's really hard to get through this course. It's knowledge I've never seen before. Well, my mom was like, you can do it. You just buckle down and you put your head to it. You've got this. You always get these things. You do it well. And I goes, Mom, I was like, I don't want to hear that right now. I think that's what I told my mom. And she stopped for a second, I guess because it was so strange to hear. But she said, when is it not okay for me to give you some encouragement? And when she said it, that's when I realized something's wrong, because even your mom noticed the fact that you didn't like the fact that she was giving you simple encouragement. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She was just giving me a little pep talk, as she always does. And I didn't want to hear it. That's when I realized, oh yeah, you're burned out. Something's wrong, because this is what you feed off of. You love getting this encouragement for your mother, and here it's time for you to get it and you don't want it. Okay, let's reassess and reevaluate what the heck is going on in your world, Cheddy. This just happened last weekend. And it really made me check myself, because here is my mom giving me some motivation and some encouragement, and I didn't want it. And it's not that I didn't want it. It's just that I was so burned out that I wasn't being my normal self. And that meant something to me, because that's significant, because I value her positive words. So that was a benchmark for me. Another one would be someone that you love or care about telling you, hey, dude, you're not doing right. You're not acting. You're not showing up as you should. And I'm going to tell you, that came from somebody very special to me, and it hurt to hear, but it needed to be said. And I know that person loves me because they said it, you know what I mean? But I didn't recognize it at all until they said it. I was like, oh. And it's interesting how you can go through stuff and you can do things and you don't even know it's happening to you until somebody recognizes, hey, your shirt's on fire. What are you talking about? And then you recognize, like, oh my gosh. And then you can do something about it. If you've ever seen like Seinfeld, and you always see like Kramer doing some stupid thing, he'll do some crazy thing. He'll be on fire and won't even know it. And then somebody will recognize it. Then he panics. It's almost like that, where I didn't realize that I was so burned out. I thought I was still functional because I was still doing things. I was doing, but I wasn't doing well, and I wasn't doing effective, and I wasn't doing properly. I was still doing. So the doing is not the issue. It's the doing appropriately and right and adequately that I was neglected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes I wish we had video podcasts so people could see our facial expressions.
I agree.
Those are so entertaining. Just the looks we give each other.
I agree. And then other times you really don't want to see the expressions.
No, you don't want to see the facial expressions. But I love it.
It's just, this is a difficult conversation in many ways, because it really does toe the line with mental health, even, right? Yeah. There is burnout. I've mentioned anxiety attack. We both have dealt with depression. So it's interesting because, for me, burnout is actually a precursor to depression. And that's where I get a little scared. Yeah. Right. Some of my coping mechanisms would be to, shutting down, starting to distract myself with like social media or watching videos or something like that. I know when I start binge watching, I'm like, uh-oh,
red flag. Yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. And so the reason why we talk about these components of the human experience, really, right, is that we all go through them. We all understand what burnout is, and we cope with it in different ways. I mean, listen, in the 20s, alcohol was involved, right?
Yeah.
30s, there's probably more distraction tactics of avoidance, like let's just go take a trip, or maybe I'll just move. Mm-hmm. So different things to create change within my life, to sort of shake it up and feel re-inspired and reconnected to this newness or possibility or anything like that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we still have ourselves, right? And so looking at these emotions and really allowing ourselves to experience them and feel them in a very compassionate way, including the experience of burnout, is so key. And, Cheddy, I love that you say you get checked in a loving way by your friend and your mom.
Great.
And that can be difficult to hear sometimes. And we can actually turn around and punish ourselves with that information, right? Yes. How could you say that to your mom? How could you let your friend down like that? Or you can really take that time to love on yourself and be extremely compassionate with, wow, here you are just trying to take on so much at the same time because you want to give so much, or for whatever reason, you want to help other people so badly. You want to feel valued or prove your worth in some way, shape, or form. But, inherently, and I am going to bring this down to like, we are inherently worthy as human beings just for being here and just for existing. And so that connection to that truth, that universal truth that you are inherently worthy and you have so much to offer is so key to all of these different emotions and difficulties that we experience with anxiety, depression, this sense of burnout, is that we need to keep coming back to that truth of the matter, which is that we are inherently worthy in who we are.
Yes, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. I love the compassion part because we are both high performing human beings. So what does that mean? We are very hard on ourselves, very unforgiving. And we extend grace to others that we would never extend to ourselves, which is not fair to ourselves. We have to show ourselves the same kind of compassion we would want from others and that we probably give to others. We've got to be like, it's okay, Cheddy. We didn't hit the mark this time. Let's do it again. Because that has more effect than, what are you doing? It just puts you in a better space. It puts you in a space of being open to learning from those mistakes or from the things that didn't work so you can do them better the next time. When you get into that place of judgment and aggression and anger and that vileness, it leaves you in a place of ineffect. Like you don't have the effect it doesn't have the effect that you think it's going to have. So be compassionate with yourself. Have a little bit of patience with yourself because we're not perfect. We're going to miss the mark sometimes. But the quicker you can adjust and recover, the quicker you can get back on track and potentially not make the same mistake again. But I'll tell you, if you focus on that mistake, which usually happens when you are yelling at yourself, you're probably going to make that mistake again because you're focusing on the mistake, not the solution, not how to make it better. So it's just a change in perspective and really monitor yourself. If you start seeing you're lacking motivation in areas that you used to be very motivated in, is it burnout? Is it just lack of interest? Maybe, I don't know. But it's always good to give yourself an assessment and just be honest with your introspection. Look within and see why you're doing the things you're doing. What's causing me to do this? How did I get from here to here? How comes all of a sudden I'm not performing as I used to? And it could be a myriad of reasons, but if you haven't explored them, then you're never going to know. Sometimes it just is what it is. Just all of a sudden, I'm just not as good at this anymore. Okay, maybe I need to learn or retool or do something different. Or maybe it's just I don't have the same passion for it anymore. Or I don't have the bandwidth for it. For me, it's the bandwidth. When I get overwhelmed, what my default is to shut down. It's to shut down. That's what I do. I realize it's almost like my engine has a cutoff switch and it just turns off. Like a motorcycle, just hit the switch, bike is dead. That's what I go through. Other people, it could be different. It could be avoidance. It could be doing something else. It could be distracting yourself. It could be just being hyperactive and just doing so many things that you don't do anything. It could be panic. It could be frantic. It could be a total change in your emotional state. Who knows? But whatever that change is, be aware of that change so you know and know how to kind of recover and bounce back and get out of that. So if you are experiencing burnout, be nice to yourself. And know that you're not alone. You're not the only person. The issue isn't having burnout. The issue is staying burned out. That's the issue. What are you going to do to recover and bounce back and restore yourself to the vitality and vivaciousness and verve that you had before? Sparkle. I was trying to not say that word, but here we go. Sparkle again. So you get that spark back. You get your fire back. So Michelle has used Sparkle twice and I haven't used it yet. So
no,
Sparkle.
You did.
Well, I did because you used it.
Well, thank you for that. That was a great summary. So if you missed the whole first part of this podcast, you can listen to the last 2 minutes or 3 minutes and it'll give you an idea of everything that we just talked about. So if you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, follow, share, and most importantly, use whatever adds value to your amazing life.
Remember, even if life puts barriers in our way, we are still moving forward. Sign in each week for a new episode of Winning Inside.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Winning Inside with Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman. If you enjoyed today's show, please make sure to click the follow button, rate and review at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can connect with Cheddy and Michelle at winninginside.io. Keep listening. Another episode is coming soon.